Welcome back to part 5 of this Scriptcase demonstration. In the previous part of this demonstration, we had reviewed the creation of some further applications, specifically more form and grid applications. Now, as we continue in this part, we will be building our security system around our initial project. So to start off, within our project, we have all our applications selected. We can then come up here to the modules and select the security option. Now this will open our security generator, and here we also already have some profiles created which we can save and use later on, or we can create a new one. So let's go ahead and create a new one. You will select next, and now we have our security type option. Now we will be creating a group security access. This way we can grant groups access, for instance group administrator groups, user groups, or service groups, and so forth. So let's go ahead and then select next. We then need to select our connection. So if we have multiple connections, we may use an alternative connection. We can use existing tables if we have them, otherwise Scriptcase can create them for us. We can specify the prefix of these new tables, and we can select to delete the tables if they already exist. Now one option I do like to always enable is the option to protect logged in users. And then we also have the option to use social networks if we so please. So let's go ahead and select next. So now Scriptcase has created our tables. We also have the option to download the SQL or see the SQL used to create these tables. I'll go ahead and close that. So now we can specify the association of our tables and define them or change them if we had created our own tables, which we haven't. So there is really no need. They should all be automatically selected correctly via the tables which have been created by Scriptcase. So we can go ahead and select next. Now we have our security configuration. So we have here, first of all, our application prefix. So our applications, when going to our home, we would then view the application name. And in this case, it will be app_login and so forth. Now we have the option here to take action when the session expires. So we can either redirect the user back to the login page, or we can display a message and then redirect the user to the login page. So I will select redirect to login. We can specify the encryption of the user passwords. We can also specify to enable security. Now, so when we use security, the applications are individually protected from certain actions when a user is not logged in, for instance. So really we want to have this enabled. We also then have the option to use Captcha or Recaptcha. So I will use no at the time being. We will also create a folder within our project, and we can also define the theme, which we'll leave as the SC9 Rhino. We have no log created. The log, we could also create here modules, log, and then create edit the log module. So now within the configuration, we also have the option to use our current menu. So I won't be doing that. I really do prefer the option to use a tree menu and then attach that to my original menu. So that's what we're going to do. So then next up, we go to our login. Here we can specify the minimum and maximum size of the username as well as the password, and also provide characters which we want to allow. For the retrieve password, we have the option, which is grayed out at the moment, to send an email with the password. So then we also have the option to reset the password and send a new one by email, and send email with a link so the user can reset their own password. So I will select the third option. Next up, we have new users, and here we can define if new users are able to register, if they require activation by email, and if on registration it sends an email to the group administrator. Okay, so continuing on, we can also specify the group name if we so wish. So I will leave these options as they are. Next up, we have email settings, the SMTP server, port. We can define the connection, as well as then the username, password, and the SMTP email to be used. Next up, we have logged in users, whether we show logged in users or not, whether we have brute force attack protection enabled, and how long the user is locked out in such a scenario. We also have the option to enable the total amount of retries before the user is locked out. So personally, I like to set this very low and set the duration very high. Next up, we have then the login template. We can specify here to use a template for the login screen. So I will select yes. And I will have the option here for a login template, which I do not have right now. So I will go ahead and enable external libraries. And here I will simply use my samples and save the project libraries. We'll then come back here to security, reload, and now I have the available forms from my samples library, which I have just attached. Now here I already have 4 login pages available. So I will select login page 2 and I will go next. So next up for the security is then we need to define our admin username and password. So I will just have that as admin right now. And then for a live scenario, we would want to place our correct username and password here, our name, email address. We can also change the admin group from administrator to admin or any other name we so please. Going next, we can then check this option. All applications of this project will be included in your table of applications. So now what's going to happen is when I click next, the security system is actually going to scan all of our pre-created applications that we have. Now this is why we've also created the security system at the end of the project, because what's going to happen is it's going to read all of our applications and it's going to insert all of that data into our tables, meaning we will have complete tables at the end of it. So if I go next, we then have the option to save our profile. So I will go ahead and save this so we can use it again in the future. We can then define if it's for public, project or user. I will say project, and then I will go ahead and generate the security. So we can see here that we have saved our profile. We have also created the security modules and enabled security within all of our current applications. And we have also created records of those applications within our security system. So now let's go ahead and generate the source code of the security applications. And once finished, we can either select to run, open our project, display the log, or we can select to close. So I'll go ahead and just go close for now. And then we can see here that we now have a new folder called security and a list of security applications. Then we have here our login page. Let's go ahead and run that. And then we can see that we now have a login page with our security system. So let's go ahead and log in with admin, which is the username and password we set. And we can already see here we have the options to create a new user and also for the forgotten password applications. Now these are all configured within the HTML form which we've created for this login page. So once logging in, we then receive now the security menu, which is the tree menu we had selected to create. So now what we're going to do first of all is we're going to add the security menu to our main menu. So let's go ahead to our root folder and open our main menu. And then within our main menu, we can select add a new item and then link to the new security menu. App menu, make sure that's not the same one. And this one here is the menu, and there we have app menu. So I'll select that and go import. And now this is the security menu. So let's type in security, and then we can run our new menu. And we see now we have security enabled for this menu. We can either disable the security for our development environment, or we can go ahead now and run the login page once again, where we can now log in if we wanted to. But note, this would also now take us to the original security menu. So what we want to do now is actually enter our app login, and then we want to change the redirect from the security menu to the original menu which we have created. So we have here on validate success, sc_validate_success. So this is more than likely going to be a PHP method which we have here, which we are requesting. And we can see here within PHP methods, sc_validate success. So if we enter that, we can see here the SQL request for the user details and so forth, and then the actions which will be performed. At the bottom here, we can see if sc logged, login, add to the log the details, and we have here also the sc_redirect, which redirects the login page to the correct application we want. So here we will change this to menu, which is now our original menu. Okay, so now that we have changed the redirect here for the login page, we need to remember that we have also specified that we have logout protection for the end users. So let's come back to our home, and then we are going to find here the app logged application and open this. Now here we will also have a redirect to the actual menu. So we need to change this also, the SC redirect within the onValidate. And here we are again going to specify menu. So this will ensure that the application, when a user is already logged in and they try to log in again, that they receive a notification that the current user is still logged in and that they need to log a user out. So when that happens, you will receive this app logged application, and this will then, on confirmation, redirect the user now also to our main menu. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that, and we can also generate this code, and then we can come back to our login page, and then from here we can go ahead and run our application again. We can now come to our login page, and now we can log in. And now we receive our original menu, and we can see here we also now have the security option which we can access, which then enables the security menu within our application. So before we go ahead and make some further customizations, let's view each of the security applications. So we've seen our login page, we then also have our users grid, and we can see here the options for the usernames and accesses which we have available. We have also the option to include new users, and here we can select whether the user is active, which group they belong to, and so forth. So let's exit that now. We then also have our applications grid, which displays a complete list of all of our available applications. We also have a description here, and as we see, this description has been included from some of our applications. Next up, we then also have our groups, which is where we have our groups defined. So here we have administrator and our group default. We can also add further groups if we so wish. Next up, we have our group/users. Now here we can select our groups that we want to view. So I will select administrator, select search, and now we can see all of the grouped users, as in admin users or default group users, depending on our selection. So then next up we have our groups/applications. Now in this one we have a complete list of applications which are associated to a user group, meaning that any access indicated here, we have here access, insert, delete, update, export, and print. The options will vary depending if it's a blank application, a form application, a grid application, and so forth. So next up we then have the sync applications. So at the moment we have our application, all of the applications which we have created here within our root, and we also have our security folder. Now when we created all of our applications as well as the security platform added all of the applications within this specific list. So the application list, we just saw that for a moment. So the sync applications allows us to synchronize new applications which we have created. So next, after the sync applications, we also have the system log. So here we can see the accesses and so forth of specific users. Now the system log can be a little more advanced if we wanted to advance it and enable further features. We then also have the option to change password, where we can then enter our old password, new password, and confirm it, and the option to log off. So let's go ahead and make some of the changes to our current project. Let's come back here to our project files. What we'll do first is generate all of our source codes, so all of our applications have been updated. Remember that they've all been added with security features for our new security applications which we have created. This is why they are currently outdated. Okay, so once generated, all of our applications will be updated, and then we can continue from here. So let's first access our menu, and we're going to move the security option just slightly up a few steps so that it comes before the search we had added previously. So now that we've moved the security icon, or menu item, we also need to hide this from non-admin users. So first of all, we're going to select here the security option, and we are going to take note of the ID number here, which is item_13. Then we're going to come here to our events and on the on application init. So when the application is initiated, we're then going to access our macros, and we can type in here menu, and we can view that we have here a sc_menu_delete. Now we can click the help and view the help information if we so wish, and view various information regarding this macro. I'm just going to go ahead and continue. So now we have our sc_menu_delete. Remember, we had item_13, and I've already pre-prepared a statement. And then here we have then our, if not admin, then to remove or delete the security menu option. To test this, we actually need to create a new user. So before I go ahead and run the login page, let's come back to our home, and we're just going to go ahead and open our form app or app form add users. Now the reason why I'm opening this is because within the options on creation of our security platform, I had selected to send the user an email or send the admin an email. So here on after insert, we can see here the macro or the function send mail to admin. So I'm going to comment this out, otherwise the application will try to send an email, and then of course it could possibly fail, or it will fail when we add a new user. So I'll go ahead and run that now. And now here we can go ahead and add a new user. So I'll add my name, Jamie. I'll add my password and confirm a password. And then we can also provide the name and so forth. So I'm going to head here and enter my email address, and then I will go include. So now the new user will be added. So now if I go ahead now here and log in with my new account, I can then go ahead and check that security is enabled. And if you remember, within our applications, we hadn't actually configured anything for specific users. So let's go ahead and log in again as administrator, because group users do not have access to the menu or any other application. So we need to enable those first of all. So we're going to come back here to our security option, and then we're also going to access the groups/application. And then here we're going to select the group default and OK. And now we are going to view as many applications as possible. And for this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and allow everything for this group. Of course, in most situations, one would not do that. So now I can also go ahead and log out. Now notice here that the log out has actually taken the login page within the main menu. So of course that is something else we are going to have to change. Now the reason for that is the redirect of the log out feature. And the log out we may also want to place within our main menu. So now let's go ahead and make those adjustments first. And we're going to come here to our home. We're then also going to open the security menu, app menu, and then we are going to check here what the logout is. So we have here lang exit, and it is the app_login, and we have there a hint also. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this to our main menu and come here to our menu items. I'll add a new item, and I will paste the language variables and so forth in here also, and within the hint also. And then here we also want to select the app login application. Okay, so remember when you log off and access the login page again, it will clear all of the variables, essentially logging the user out. So I'll leave it here in this position. And then what we're going to do is we're going to save that. We can then of course remove the logout or exit option from our security menu and save that also. Okay, so all of our applications should now allow the group. So let's go ahead and generate our source code, because now we have a few applications which are no longer valid, and all applications, and there we still have one, which is our main menu. Okay, so now we can then go ahead and run our login page once again. If I log in again with my group access, I now have access to the main menu as previous. The security menu item is no longer available, and the log off is now within our main menu. So if I select now the log off, I will then access the login page as so. Now again, we're still having this problem. So to resolve this problem, we need to come back to our main menu, and then within the main menu where we have placed our lang exit, we need to change the target from this window to leave. And when we now log in and log off, we now receive the login page as we should. Okay, so to finish up, we have one or two things left to do, and that would be first of all to remove our comment from our form add users so that when our project is live, we receive a email notification of a new user being added to our platform. So let's save that, and then we can also go ahead and close everything else and generate our source code. And then from here, we are ready for deployment of our project. Okay, so we have our security ready, and we are actually now ready for deployment. So I already have our cPanel open here. Of course, you can use just about any other access also. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and access our file manager. So within the file manager, I have the folder www, which is where we will be deploying our applications, and into the deploy folder. Now, because the Scriptcase I am currently using is hosted live online, we will also be directly exporting the files locally to the server, which we have here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We have first of all the option to export or deploy all of our applications. So within project and deploy applications, we then first have the option to select all applications for deployment or to select individual application. Now, when we perform updates to our platform, we may only want to deploy select applications which we have either edited or created. So as this is new, we will select all and go next. So next up, we have the option for a typical deployment, which is also recommended. We also have the option for an advanced. Now, the difference between the two is that with the advanced, we can first of all create a template, and we can then also define the project folders. So here, for instance, we have our produce folder, we have our image folder, we have our temporary folder, and folder for documents. We can also select our initial application. Okay, so we're not going to be doing this. We're actually going to be going back, and we are going to be performing a typical deployment, considering that this is the first time that we are also deploying everything and we have no custom folders for our applications. So let's go next, and now we have the option to deploy with the common libraries and also to deploy with common files such as CSS files, buttons, images, messages, and so forth. Now again, if this is the first deployment, then we want to leave these two options enabled to ensure that all project files are deployed to our project folder. If, for instance, this is an update to an application, then we can deselect these. However, if we include new libraries, new images, or CSS files and so forth, then we will want to ensure that we select the appropriate option. Okay, so we first need to select our initial application, and that will be the login page, and then we go next. Now for deployment, we have the option to either create a zip file with all applications. We can also create a tar file with applications. Now, both of these files could be uploaded to the file manager, so I could extract or deploy via a zip file, upload the zip file into my directory, and then extract the files on the server. Now, generally, personally, I would download the zip file myself, extract all of the files to a folder, and then upload each individual application within a queue. Now, that is my personal choice. How you do it, that would of course be up to you. Alternatively, of course, if you have local hosting, then you can deploy onto a server directory, which is what we will be doing. Now this is, however, the fastest option available. Another option available is the deploy on FTP server. So we can add our FTP details into here, or SFTP, which is then the secure version of FTP, and then we can deploy our applications directly to our hosting environment. So let's go ahead, and what we need to do is define our folder. So we had already said here within our cPanel file manager that we will be deploying to the deploy folder. So here I'm now going to add the folder path, which is home, Scriptcase, www, and then /deploy. So now let's go next. Once our application is fully deployed, Scriptcase will inform us that all applications have been okay, process time as well, and it will inform us that deployment has finished. Now within our file manager, we can then see that the files have all been uploaded. Now to access this, we then need to access this same domain, and then we can come here and enter the deploy folder, and we should now have our live project available, which is where we now need to configure our connection. So let's go ahead and click to create our connection. So now we access the Scriptcase production environment, which is basically the back end of Scriptcase. And from here we have our default password, which is Scriptcase. So if we go ahead and enter that, we can also select our language, and then we can log in. On first login, we will be requested to change our password. So I will go ahead and change this now and update it. Okay, so we are now within our production environment. So the first thing we want to do is create our database connection. So we will be using MySQL. So I select MySQL, and then we need to enter our database details. And then with our details entered, we can first of all test the connection, and we will be informed that the connection was a success or a failure. And then we can select our database table. So for our project, we had used the Scriptcase samples demo, which I will then select and select save. Our connection will then be established. Now, do note the URL we are using for the deployment backend. So if you do need to access this again, then you can do so by accessing the following URL, and this will then bring you back to the login page for this backend if required. So let's go ahead and log out. Refreshing our deployment location will present us with the login page. So from here, of course, we can go ahead and log in, and we can see our project live. Do please let me take this opportunity to remind you that on our website at scriptcase.net we have many samples, e-learning, webinars, courses, documentation, and much more information which will help you further in the creation of your project as well as the customization. My name is Jamie Oates, and I hope you have enjoyed this demonstration with us here at Scriptcase.